Hi YouTube, it's Angel from Angel Sky TV, and today I wanted to talk about psychic attacks. It's something that I've been thinking about in the last probably 8 years, and I've sort of flipped it around in my head in different ways, and I feel like I finally have made some ground in understanding the phenomenon I describe as psychic attacks or psychic vampires. So basically, what a psychic attack is, or how I would define it, is when someone is sending you a negative vibe or a negative energy. And that can be as simple as, oh, I don't like that person, and that person thinks that about you, and then that energy goes to you, and you kind of maybe feel it, maybe you don't feel it. Then there is the sort of more intense psychic attacks, like jealousy, for example. And Doreen Virtue, she's written many angel books. I'm sure most of you have heard of her. I've trained with her, and she describes the psychic attack of jealousy as the most intense psychic attack there is. So, for example, she actually recommends that you don't, flaunt your stuff. And this is probably why back in the day they always said don't brag and stuff like that, because people get jealous. And then when people get jealous, they send a negative energy to you that can actually physically affect you. And this is where it gets controversial, because a lot of people don't believe that a negative thought, can affect you unless you let it affect you, which is true, and I'll tell you why. So I just recently watched Teal Swan and her video about psychic vampirism, is what she calls it, which is kind of the same thing. And I'm just going to do the diagram that she did, because I'm a visual person, so when I saw this, I was like, oh my god, it makes total sense. Okay, so just hopefully you can see this, and I can do this really quickly. So this is the divine, or the omnipresent energy that is everywhere, God, whatever you want to call it. And let's say this is my soul. So this is me. And then let's say this is you. This is your soul. So the divine feeds our souls. Okay? Energy. And then our souls, in turn, feeds our bodies. Okay? So, according to Teal Swan, formerly known as Teal Scott, when I perceive you as thinking something negative about me, I might feel badly about that. And we all have had this happen where we found out somebody was talking about us, and it's like, oh my god, how could they think that horrible thing about me? It's very hurtful. And I don't mean to sound kind of mockingly, but I'm just whatever. So you hear about what somebody says, and then you're like, oh my god, like, it's devastating. How could they think that of me? That's so not true, or blah blah blah. I thought they were my friend. I thought they were my family. That they shouldn't do that. All of these thoughts cut off your divine source, which creates the symptoms associated with a psychic attack. So it started with you thinking or saying mean things about me. But because I perceived them in the way that I did, I chose to cut off my own divine source. Okay? And so some of the symptoms then associated with a psychic attack: tiredness, irritability, like without any trigger, without any, you might just feel irritated for no reason. Confusion, disorientation, these are all symptoms of psychic attacks. Bumping into things, becoming more accident prone, things around you breaking. So, just to tell a personal story about myself, this past week, my kitchen sink backed up. My work phone, is acting crazy. My computer is acting crazy. My husband's car broke down. Our dryer broke. okay? Like, this all happened literally in 1 week. And that's a bit strange. And I do know there are some people that, anyways, I'm not going to go that personal, but anyways. So I started to think about psychic attacks a lot. And this demonstration here really was powerful for me. It's not something I didn't already know. It's that old, that saying, sticks and stones can hurt my bones, blah, 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 but names will never hurt me. If I choose to allow you to influence me to the point that I lower my own energy and feel badly because in my mind I can't let it go that you think those things about me, then I'm the one choosing that. Now here's where it gets a little gray. So right after Teal Swan does this demonstration, which I thought was really beautiful, visual, awesome, she then says, in the very next sentence, she contradicts herself. So she says that you have to sort of choose how you interpret the information that someone is sending you that cuts off your own divine source. You're the cause of your own misery, so to speak. But then she says, sometimes you can walk into a room, not know who's the psychic vampire or the person that chooses to feed off other people's energy. So you can walk into a room and not be aware of who that is and feel all of those psychic attack symptoms like being drained, being irritable, body pains, being disoriented, all the things I listed before. So how then are you the factor in creating the psychic attack? So I've been thinking a lot about this because as I mentioned in my previous video, I'm very sensitive to energy and people's energy. And so I tend to be really good at knowing what's mine and what's theirs at this point in my life. I wasn't always good at that, but I've become really good at it. And this is what I do to help me in situations where there are psychic vampires. Now, I guess I should rewind a little bit and explain what a psychic vampire is. My personal definition of a psychic vampire is that it's somebody that feeds off other people's energy, like I said. How do they do that? They might lower the energy in the room by constantly complaining, by just being overtly negative, like nothing's ever right. And we all know those people where it's like, oh, but look at the bright side. There is no bright side. Like that, those types of people. And really, if you think about it, you don't really like being around them. They're nice people, they're good people, but every time you're around them, you feel like you're just so absolutely exhausted. So that's kind of a loose definition of a psychic vampire. So how do you decipher who that is in the room? Because there's generally, psychic vampires everywhere. People aren't always positive. And it is definitely a choice to behave that way. I've only ever experienced one intentional psychic vampire. So what I mean by that is most people are unaware that they're psychic vampires. They're not trying to feed off your energy like an actual vampire would go out and suck your blood. Like, they're not doing that. They just have learned to complain. They've learned that that's a normal in their vocabulary behavior, so that's why they choose to behave like that. They haven't sat and reflected on, oh, when you complain your life gets worse. They haven't sat and thought about that because generally they're just reciting what they're seeing in their world, and it's very easy to get caught in talking about the negative, right? Because it's burns a little bit more than the positive. So it's like, oh, that person, he was an asshole, blah, blah, blah. You tend to kind of talk like that sometimes. I do it myself. So most psychic vampires, I would say 90% of the psychic vampires out in the world are completely 100% unaware of it. But then there is, and maybe it's about 10%. I think that's giving, I think that's too much. But there's generally a small percentage of people that are actual on-purpose psychic vampires where they will go out find you the person in the room that has the highest vibration and do what they can energetically to take it, because they're not aware of their own power, essentially, that they can create their own flow, their own, they're connected just like everybody to this divine source. They just don't know how to get it without taking it. So anyways, that's another video altogether. But what I generally do when I feel a psychic attack is I ask myself, okay, A, am I being a football of other people's opinions and getting kicked around? And that's a Sri Sri Ravi Shankar quotation. Because that's what happens when I care too much what other people think about me. I get kicked around. So if I'm doing that, then I'm actually choosing to participate in that attack. I basically let my guard down and got sucker punched. I'm letting that happen when I care too much what people think. Or am I just picking up someone's negative vibe, feeling it in my own body, and not being aware that it's mine, right? This is what happens a lot, where you're like feeling really good, go around somebody that's negative and you feel like absolute shit, and you think it's you. You think you just feel bad, but actually you picked up their vibe. And then of course, because all your neural pathways have been lit up, and in the memory of when you felt bad is triggered, then you start actually going down that downward spiral, and then you really are in a hole and think that, you know, and it all started with that person. So I'm very aware of my own energy, what's mine and what's other people's. And basically, if I have, I'll just ask, oh, why am I suddenly feeling like this? And if I have no real reason to feel lower, in a lower space, then I will look around the room, and my guides will actually point out who it is. Who is that I might need to talk to. Maybe I need to smile at them. Maybe I need to, and it's not that I need to help them go to a higher vibration or anything like that. And I'm not saying I'm always at a higher vibration either. So anyways, this is getting a little bit, I'm getting a little bit tongue twisted. But the point I'm trying to make is that definitely psychic attacks do exist. And one of the things that I feel that most people don't realize, I'm not saying all people, is the power of their own thinking. And you know, a lot of the spiritual community, they're right on the bandwagon with manifestation and positive thinking and the power and all of that. But they're not really tuned into the power of their negative thinking towards other people. So when you actually think bad things about other people, you may as well just walk up to them and spit in their face, because you are contributing to them. You're adding to the, like, say this person you're thinking about in a negative way is already low. You just added some more weight on them by sending your negative crap or feelings about them towards them. So our society does it all the time. Towards superstars and Hollywood stars, we think we have the right as commoners to be like, they're ugly, they have ugly hair, their dress is terrible, they're a piece of shit, they make bad life choices, whatever it is. We're sending those human beings, our brothers and sisters, a nasty vibe. Now, I'm getting the sense I'm starting to sound righteous, as if I've never done this, and I've definitely done this. And I've done this repeatedly to this day, where I'm like bad-mouthing someone or feeling negative towards someone. And I'm happy to say that I have been working really, really hard to stop that status quo behavior, because I really don't want to contribute to the psychic garbage that's out there. There's so much psychic garbage, it's ridiculous. And Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, who I'm going to quote again, has said, like, it would be, I can't remember his exact quote, but he said something like, in the future it would be really awesome if people were charged for putting out too much psychic garbage. Like the police would, you know, issue you know, you would get charged for it. And I just remember hanging on those words and thinking, you know what? people can deny their negative intentions towards others all the time. Nobody can really hold you accountable for it. But ultimately, I believe it does come back to you. It really does. And again, just getting a little bit personal in the sense of all of the things happening around me right now, and the situation where I know exactly where that's coming from. And it doesn't hurt me because I don't believe the people think, like, I don't believe what the people think about me. I believe what I think about myself more than what those individuals feel about me. So I'm not hurt by their psychic attacks. I'll admit that some of the things, the physical symptoms and things like that, threw me off center for a temporary time because I didn't realize where it was coming from. But then when I meditated and understood where it was coming from, I was like, oh, okay, and that's theirs and this is mine, and you can have your energy back. Thank you very much. Not today. And that's all I do. I just send it right back to the sender with love. I'm like, you're obviously misguided, and you're not looking deep enough into why you feel like that. So going back to Doreen Virtue and jealousy, she talks about how that's one of the most intense psychic attacks. And I felt jealousy like anybody else. But one of the things I do is I challenge my mind when I get in that space of where I'm jealous of someone else. I generally will think, okay, why am I jealous of that person? Like, do I want what they have? Okay, well, why don't I just go out and get it? What is preventing me? What's blocking me from doing and living that way? Obviously something I'm doing or not doing. So then I use it as a lesson. Oh, that's what I want. Thank you for bringing that to my attention with that intense emotion I felt towards you. It had nothing to do with you. It had to do with me. Because essentially everybody's a mirror of you. So that's how I work towards thinking about other people in my life that affect me negatively. Rather than going into blame or criticism towards those people, which I'm not saying I don't do that. I definitely do start out like that, but I take it deeper where I challenge myself and stop myself because it's just not conducive to being the type of person I want to be. And if everybody would take a minute to step back and, step back and stop outputting and go inward and just ask yourself the right questions to get you to a higher vibration, I think the world would be a better place. I mean, maybe that's being idealistic or romantic, I don't know. But I do think people need to take more of a responsibility for their own mind and for their own behavior and for gossiping. I mean, that is the ultimate lower vibration. When you're constantly gossiping about what's wrong with other people, look in the freaking mirror because nobody's perfect. Nobody is perfect. And so that concludes my psychic attack, psychic vampire discussion. Basically, it sums up to being, gossiping. That plays into psychic attacks and things like that. And if you're getting psychic attacks, you need to ask yourself, and this is what I asked myself recently, like, who am I sending psychic attacks out to? I must be sending psychic attacks out to people if I'm getting psychic attacks. Now, just one more thing is Teal Swan talks about, this whole protection. Everybody's like, oh, protect yourself, put the bubble, put the mirror bubble, and it'll go right back to them. Put the white light. But as soon as you think you have to protect yourself, you're inviting someone to attack you. I'm not saying don't protect yourself, but at the same time, there's a balance there. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I don't even know if I understand what I'm saying. But anyways, it's interesting. it's very, very interesting. And one of the things I think is most interesting is the human mind. It just blows me away. I mean, that's why I'm doing, like, I have a degree in psychology, and I'm my master's in counseling. The human mind and behavior just, it amazes me. And I have this natural curiosity towards why people do and act and behave the way they do. And especially myself. I'm very interested in why I do and act and behave the way I do. It's just very fascinating. So anyways, I also want to just put out there that I'm doing a pilot video for EastlinkTV. It's basically going to be my YouTube channel on Eastlink Television. This pilot, we're just going to try it out, see how it works on television. And I need to find a few people to interview in the local Halifax area. So if you have any suggestions, or you know anybody, or you yourself want to be interviewed on my pilot episode, please leave your information or email, whatever, or you can just email me as well if you go through my website, angels-essentials.com. And so just put in the comments below. And I hope to talk to you soon, and have a great end of summer. Okay, bye.